Hello, everyone, and welcome to Windwire's Purpose-Driven Virtual Fireside Chat. Today's purpose-driven topic is inspiring purposeful action in and across communities. Without further ado, I'm happy to introduce you to our host, Ashu Goel, the CEO of Windwire, who will be interviewing our special expert guest panelist, Siva Balu, the CIO of YMCA USA. Welcome, Ashu and Siva.
Thanks, Bianca. Hi, Siva. Welcome and glad to have you as part of our fireside chat session today.
Thanks for having me, Ashu.
Thank you. Thank you. So before we get started, folks, many of you have been listening to us for a while. Thank you again for coming back. Some of you who are coming in and joining us for the very first time. My name is Ashu Goel. I'm the CEO of Windwire. For folks who don't know, we are a purpose-driven company ourselves. We pride ourselves in working with organizations to help them gain competitive advantage. And we do it through a data-driven digital engineering approach we call stitching the digital fabric. One of the things, the reason I'm so passionate about it, and I love to invite leaders like Siva to come on the purpose-driven fireside chat session, is I believe in today's day and age, most organizations have to be purpose and profit driven. It's not just either purpose or profit. I think as you look at organizations around the world, most organizations are starting to realize that having a purpose really makes a huge difference. As you guys saw in the intro video as well, a lot of the research is pointing in that direction. So that's a firm belief that I have, and that's the reason I want to bring in leaders who believe in that, who can share their insights and lessons around that. So with that, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our guest speaker, Siva Balu. Welcome again. Glad to have you as part of our guest speaker. Siva is the Vice President and CIO of YMCA of the USA. In his role, he is working to rethink and reorganize the work of YMCA's information technology strategy to meet the changing needs of Ys throughout the country. For over 170 years, the Y has been leading nonprofit committed to strengthening community by connecting all the people to their potential, purpose, and each other. Working locally, they focus on empowering young people, improving health and well-being, and inspiring action in and across communities. Siva holds an MBA from Lake Forest, an executive master's degree from Harvard and MIT, and has over 20 years of healthcare technology experience in leadership roles for Blue Cross Blue Shield. In his free time, he volunteers and contributes to several charities, including Special Olympics, Chicago Food Depository, Sarah's Inn, Beyond Hunger, and more. And as if that is not enough to keep his time occupied, he's also an ultra marathoner, one who has run multiple 100-mile races. He recently ran what is referred to as the world's toughest foot race, Badwater 135-miler in Death Valley. Wow. Welcome, Siva. Glad to have you as part of our session today.
Thank you for having me here, Ashu. It's a pleasure. When you're reading this, I'm like trying to be humble here and I'm actually looking forward to our conversation today.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we're delighted to have you as part of this session. I want to start out talking about what I started out defining what purpose and profit mean and how organizations should be thinking about it. I think you're in a very unique situation, Siva, to give us your insights, since you come from a healthcare organization like Blue Cross Blue Shield that is really, I think all of us have realized the value of healthcare in the last year through the pandemic. And now you are in a scenario that's also driving a lot of community-driven change. I would love to have you talk a little bit about what does the purpose-driven innovation and purpose and profit scenario mean to you?
Absolutely. And a little known fact about Blue Cross Blue Shield, as you know, every state has their own Blue Cross Blue Shield company, except for two, all other Blue Cross Blue Shield are nonprofit. And YMCA is the largest nonprofit in the country as well as in the world. So I'm honored to be part of these big brands as well as the ones who are mission-driven, purpose-driven. Listening to your question, Ashu, the one thing comes to my mind is every company has to think about what, how, and why. Long ago, I read this article and it stuck in my head. Almost all companies know what they're doing. Few companies or many companies know how to do it. They're good at it. Very few companies know why they are doing this. And that's what I call as purpose-driven organization, purpose-driven leadership, where you got to find your why more than the what and the how. In fact, as you go in the leadership, the how becomes less and less important because you have teams. Hopefully, the leaders are grooming their teams to do to get to the mission. The what is in most cases pretty clear because you have a strategy, a roadmap. But the why is what every leader should be asking. Why are we doing this? What is the impact we're going to have by doing this? And me right now, as a career, I have opted to work in nonprofit. It's an exciting time to be there for many reasons, but to make an impact in the communities and at society at large. So that's kind of what comes to my mind when you ask about purpose-driven leadership.
Absolutely. I think I couldn't agree with you more, Shiva, on that. I think we clearly see that as we talk to leaders around the nation and around the globe, that I think it is very, very important. I think everybody's looking at it and figuring it out. Just building on that, how have you seen the last 12 months, 14 months change the business approach to some of these things?
Absolutely. I actually took the role at YMCA in the middle of COVID. It's right now, this week is 1 year since most spaces shut down, right? It's in the news and we are looking back. It's one of those years I think we all will remember for a long time. And during this time, I also took a new role to face a much bigger challenge in a nonprofit space. Within YMCAs, when, just for context, there are around 2,700 YMCAs around the country, and they roll up to 800 like corporate offices. And then we have the national office. I would say a high percentage of YMCAs were shut down. The branches were shut down during the COVID spikes. If you go back in time, in May, June, there was a second spike, and around the holidays there was another spike. So it's opening and closing. What has happened in this time is, in spite of so much tremendous stress on the brands and the staff, and your revenue is challenged, your membership is challenged, YMCA and Blue Cross actually try to offer more than what they get from the members. And I'll spend a minute talking about whys. Really, the YMCA took a step back and tried to reinvent what we are doing. The mission of the YMCA is youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. And this ties to your topic here very much with purpose-driven leadership, right? How can we help the communities that are struggling? How can we help the folks that are, in a confined space without access to many things, out of all which the society that they go to interact with? So we actually had to offer so many programs to help the communities around the country. So we can go into some of the details and examples, but reinventing ourselves has become a need when COVID hit us. And I think that is happening slowly over a period of time, but it happened overnight in the last 12 months.
Yeah, I completely agree. In fact, that's a common thing that we hear as we talk to leaders around, is that I think they were already on their journey, especially the ones that were progressive and thinking ahead. This just helped them take those decisions really fast. The boards moved really fast to approve initiatives that were helping them transform anyway. So that's a common thing that we hear from leaders who are already thinking about that. I would love to hear, you mentioned you can give a couple of examples. Please, if you can walk us through that, that'll be instructive for folks listening.
Absolutely. So generally, there is, I think, a lack of understanding of all the programs offered by the YMCAs across the country. I will put myself in that bucket. I have been learning about the Ys every day. A little bit of a tidbit. I actually grew up in India and I moved here a little over 20 years ago. And I didn't know this until 6 months ago. My own grandfather was the president of a YMCA in India 60 years ago. So I have some kind of a connection to the brand. So when the branches were closed, right, but we have these huge facilities around the country. Some of the stuff that came up is the need for the communities. One thing that the Vice did across the country is food distribution to people in need, primarily to children in need, partnering with the local food banks, many restaurants and other chains, supply chains. So the Vice became a food distribution center for thousands and thousands of communities. And recently, Mackenzie Scott, ex-wife of Jeff Bezos, she actually recognized it and donated to many Ys around the country for this particular reason. In addition to that, the Ys were also, they became a child care center. As an example, if the husband and wife or the parents, I should say, are essential workers, they have to go to work, but their kids are in virtual classes. So somebody has to watch the kid throughout the day. In several communities, the parents drop the kids at a Y, and the Y staff watch them all day long when the parents went to do the essential work. This is in between COVID. And we became virtual schools, in other words. My YMCA here is nearby my house actually tried to provide shelter to avoid homelessness. So they have actually lodging facilities within the Y to provide shelter to folks who are at the brink of homelessness, to avoid homelessness proactively. And in Omaha, as an example, they experimented during the flu shot season how to make the Y as a flu center, like the dispensing place for flu shots. And now actually a few hundred Ys are becoming COVID vaccination centers. So I can go on and on and on. I would highly recommend to follow the Ys in social media, and you will see all this. The point I'm trying to make is, usually we think about a gym or a swim, or you go for a day camp or a summer camp to the Y. The stuff I have listed out are just a few samples of how the Ys try to help the communities when COVID hit.
Very, very good examples and very relevant ones. And you're right. You don't think about why in that sense. It has become more like another gym. But it's really significantly more than that. And it's really a community, and it does a lot of different things. For seniors, I just learned, for example, just pre-homeless, food distribution, vaccine distribution. I think that's fantastic. Great to hear that. One of the things that naturally comes, one of the things I wanted to talk about was more around diversity and inclusion, which is the core of YMCA's values. I think you just touched upon that. If you can touch a little bit upon the importance of developing and engaging everyone across the Y spectrum, because you, especially in your case, you have a very wide communities to engage with. You have members, volunteers, families, donors, and so on. If you can talk a little bit about the importance of diversity and inclusion in that.
Absolutely. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is one of our primary mission way before 2020. And we have a very large diversity and global team, diversity, inclusion, and global team. We not only provide services within the US, but globally in around 140 countries from the US office. Just talking about 2020, right? It was one of those years where I feel like all the challenges popped up in the society. We had a global pandemic. We had the George Floyd incident and the systemic racism talk and narrative after that. We held several virtual national town halls, bringing in leaders from across the country to talk about systemic racism, titled as Unlearning Systemic Racism. We were very open. We created safe spaces, as well as we invited even folks outside the WISE to participate. As many other organizations, we had furloughs and other impacts to staff during the COVID. We invited those staff also to take part in the diversity conversations because it's a global issue that we have to handle. Uh, Pre-COVID and continues to have, there are several diversity leadership network within the YMCA movement. As an example, I am part of the Asian Pacific Islander Leadership Network Steering Committee. And we create those spaces for others to learn about each other's culture, to talk about challenges, and to take steps to address this, right? And this is not going to be solved through one town hall, through some project, or it's an ongoing conversation because some of these are deep rooted. We have town halls led by the African American CEOs of YMCAs to talk about what they're going through, which has been hundreds of years. Talking about our members as an example, we use data to identify communities and societies where there is a need for those in a minority population, whether it is education, food, access to health, health programs, so on and so forth. We have analytics to show us that, and we focus our programs on that. Likewise, our staff, volunteers, we are making a concerted effort to increase the diversity among those demographics. Like any other organization, we have our challenges, right? Like we want to be mindful of giving folks from every background an opportunity. If you move away from the national office to each local community, as an example, in Ann Arbor, in Ann Arbor, Michigan, at the YMCA, they have programs created for LGBTQ plus communities. They have timings blocked in the swimming lanes for LGBTQ folks to have that opportunity to freely be there, and educational programs and whatnot. So, diversity is a broad topic, anywhere from systemic racism to women's rights to LGBTQ plus challenges. And we are here to help and serve the community in all aspects of that. Again, it has to be intentional. As an example, when I came on board, I wanted to bring partners to help in the technology space. Those are women-owned, minority-owned, or disabled service veteran-owned companies. So these are things that leaders have to be very mindful. And I would say that at the YMCA, we are trying to lead the effort in partnership with various organizations around the country.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we certainly see that. I think you said something very interesting, which is intentional. I think a lot of the time you have to think about and act about it. And I think that's how change happens. And you guys are certainly at the leading edge of that. I certainly see that. Just building on that, I think, Siva, I feel like, in certain cases, some of the folks that I talk to, look at folks like you and think that, well, it's very natural for you to be purpose driven and have that leadership style because you are in an industry which is so purpose driven. What advice, if any, you can give to leaders who are not as directly, obviously, purpose driven industries, but can still have that mindset and drive their organizations in that area?
Absolutely. I tend to think, Ashu, that whether you're in a nonprofit sector like myself or in a for-profit, I think these are various labels given for various reasons, right? For tax purposes, for opportunities, whatnot. But I tend to think every leader can have an impact in the community. And I'm using impact here intentionally, and that can be your purpose, right? So I think it'll be important for the leaders to, within their company, right? That's your question. Try to identify what your mission is, right? And I think many companies have mission and vision, but also identifying those tenets and living through those tenets every day is important. And I think a leader can actually drive those changes and ask this question constantly: what impact do we want to have after we are gone? Like after our time, right? There is this girl, I think there's this quote that is attributed to the founder of Girl Scouts, and I might get this wrong, but leave a place better than you found it, right? So I think if the leaders are asking this question about their companies, about their products, no matter what sector they are in, I think they can move towards a purpose-driven, innovative organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree that it's not. I think in every industry, in every organization, you can be purpose driven, you can be mindful, you can think about making an impact. And I think it allows you, as you said early on, once you are focused on the why, I think the rest of the organization aligns better with you as well. Because everybody wants to get up in the morning and know what difference they're going to be making with the work that they're going to be doing. And yes, financial aspect is one aspect of that, but I think it's not just the only thing. I think there is a wholesome view that everybody should be looking at.
Absolutely.
Completely agree on that. Looking at that. One of the things that I wanted to hear more about, especially in your role and as we have interacted with you, I know you have vision about transforming the technology landscape in what it is, and how certainly the pandemic has brought some things to light on the changes that you need to make. If you want to talk a little bit about how you guys are leveraging technology to pivot during these times, that would be very helpful for the audience as well.
Absolutely. And this is an exciting question for me, Ashu, as you and I spoke before. So just to give the landscape of the YMCAs, right? I said there are 2,700 Ys around the country. And what has happened pre-COVID is the technology investments and the digital landscape is a little bit more siloed. What I mean by that is, if you're in a big city, or if you have a huge membership, let's say like Boston or Twin Cities or Houston, you were able to invest in digital technologies and extend the member experience to be seamless with your branches. However, a vast majority of them, either they didn't invest because the priority is branches and camps and other things, and there is technology all over the country, a little bit siloed. At the same time, it is as needed basis. It's not about seamless experience. It's more like to run the business, right? What COVID has done is it has showed us, while there is challenges and there are branches shut down, what is a possibility of having a unified, universal platform for the YMCAs. So when I came on board, I spent a month and a half listening to leaders across the country, and it became clear to me that there is a need to have a national platform where we can deliver a virtual and digital experience to the members. So we actually started ideating a new platform called the Y Cloud, which is like YMCA Cloud, right? The purpose is to have a digital platform that could deliver virtual, mobile, and digital content to the members around the country, no matter which zip code you reside in. This actually was a reaction to the branches closing. What I did not realize is in many branches, the folks who are members like their local instructors. They go to the branches more for socializing purposes than the classes itself, right? They go there to see their friends. And in my mind, I put it in three demographic. There is 2 to 17, that is youth and children. They go there for camp and swimming and yada yada. And there is 20 to 45, that is parents who go to the Y because their kids go there and they have a family membership. And there is 50 and above who go there to meet their friends. It's more like a socializing place for them. The thing that negated all these lines of division is COVID, because everybody has to stay at home. Everybody has to abide by the local, policies. You can't go and mingle. So we started looking at fitness delivering at your home, right? So we created these platforms quickly. We created a pilot. We tested in a few markets, California, Florida. We got huge adoption. So we started ramping up quickly. And then we also started building the mobile in parallel. The thing to note is these are just technologies, right? But the content is what matters, and that's where the power is. While it started for fitness, so if you're going to the Y to take a yoga class, you can actually take the yoga class at your home. The instructor can communicate to you through this virtual platform that's secure and Y branded and whatnot. What we saw is the use cases started increasing exponentially. For example, we moved into the space of wellness and health. YMCAs traditionally had given chronic disease prevention programs through the Ys, like diabetes prevention program. Now you can talk to your health coach through the virtual Y platform. You can actually, we are imagining doing telehealth through the Y Cloud, which is, we are so close to this. We are talking to partners and providers and payers. And we're also seeing folks using it for fun. We all have gone through virtual happy hours through Zoom. But what we don't have in that is a validation that this is a true member. So we actually see like cooking classes through the virtual Y. We see art classes. We see children's programs through the virtual Y. So the Y Cloud products have actually exceeded what we imagined in June, July of last year. And I would say that is something that we had moved very fast. We truly did agile. We truly did a MVP and move fast. And we were able to iterate. I jokingly tell my team, like, we should call this COVID agile, because we had no time or resources to waste. We had to just get it delivered. It's about existence, right? So when your existence is challenged, I think you get a lot of focus and you can get it done. There could be some lessons there. We have some meticulous lessons learned and notes, and I'm hoping to write a white paper or an article sometime this year on what we did and how we did this, like a case study. But that is an exciting thing we did. And there are other opportunities that also came up, like data is another thing where we use data to recognize where there is the digital divide. I think, at least I take it for granted, right? I have a MacBook, I have Wi-Fi, I never need to think about my mobile phone, but there are communities where there is no access to laptop, or a family can have one computer or a laptop, but they might have 4 kids, and all 4 kids are in a Zoom class. So actually, we donated laptops to Puerto Rico and other places as part of helping the Ys around the country. And also, there are communities where they can take their laptop to a YMCA and use the Wi-Fi to take classes. So when I say there's a digital divide, that's a true issue. I'm surprised it doesn't come up in the headlines more often. We use data to identify those areas and gaps and try to deliver our services to those zip codes and communities so that we can have a higher impact on those local youth.
Yeah, no, this is fascinating, Shiva. I could talk to you for hours on. I'm really excited about the Y Cloud initiative. Would love to see how we are partnering on that and expanding on that. I think the opportunities are limitless on that as we are moving on. I have, as I said, I can keep talking. I think we are coming to a point where I think we'll start infringing on folks who want to ask questions. A bunch of folks who are waiting in to talk to you and ask their questions. So I would have Bianca come back and get started on some of the questions.
Absolutely. That was wonderful. Thank you, Ashu and Shiva. We're now going to open up the floor for our live Q&A, where you can ask our panelists any questions you may have. If you haven't already done so, please type your questions into the Q&A chat box found on the bottom toolbar. Okay, so the first question comes in from Katie. She said, with the Y having so many sectors, such as the food program and others, along with locations, how has AI and ML, along with predictive analytics, played a role in digital transformation?
So I would say YMCA traditionally has been lagging a little bit on the AI and ML. That's something I bring to the table here. We have a research analytics and insights area where we use Esri and GIS to get the community data, commingle that with our data, and we try to create intelligence out of this. As part of our roadmap for this year, we are intending to use data to look at our pattern of usage of these digital products and other services we're providing, and then start shifting our priorities accordingly. So I want to say it is in a roadmap right now. We are in that direction, but historically that was not a priority.
That's going to be exciting.
Exactly.
It's implemented. Absolutely. Great. Our next question comes in from Robert. What has been some of your personal practices to stay healthy and mindful as a leader during one of the most challenging times in our recent history?
I think I can answer that for him.
Running.
Running 125 miles.
So you answered my question. If you want, I can add on top of it.
Please. I was just kidding.
That is true. Actually, mid-January to mid-February, I kind of lagged in running because I had some other personal commitments. I run consistently all 7 days a week, but I kind of slowed down. I didn't consistently run. And I was telling my wife, and I went back to run late February because you guys might have heard in the news, Chicago had like minus temperature for 3 weeks in a row and everything was frozen. So after that, when I went out, I came back and I told my wife, don't ever allow me not to run anymore because I can see the difference in my head, right? So apart from running, and that has been a really new hobby for me, 5-6 years or so. I also take a lot of pleasure in cooking. I like to cook every day if I can, if the time permits. And sometimes it's just doing those things that is mindless in my mind helps. And in the weekends, I actually am part of the local community emergency response teams. I volunteer, as Ashu mentioned earlier, in many nonprofits. I sit in a few nonprofit boards. That actually refreshes me, that gives me perspective of what I have and valuing what I have. So recently I've been volunteering at the vaccination places in our local village, and that has been extremely rewarding. In a 4-hour shift, we vaccinate 600 citizens. And that's a lot of people to go through in that time. But at the end of the day, I've seen anywhere from somebody who's 100 years old who got their vaccine to teachers, and now it's opening up to 1B plus. So it's a rewarding experience. So those are things I try to do in my time outside of work.
Very cool.
That's great. All right, our next question comes in from Shannon. What is the best piece of advice you've received from a mentor in your life?
There is a lot, and I'm a person who's shaped by a lot of good mentors, and I'm fortunate enough to have some. I would say the one that actually keeps coming back to me as a leader is it's not what you say, it's how you say. And one of my mentors told me this, right? Nobody will remember 10 years from now what I said, but they will remember how I said this. This is to catch myself from saying something that is, not positive, or that is coming across as, rude or arrogant. So it's not what you say, it's how you say that people will remember.
I like that. It's
Very
wonderful.
true.
So our next question comes in from Forrest. What has been the biggest challenge for you joining your new role during the pandemic, and has there been a silver lining? I know you did shed a light on that, but if you could.
Yeah, the silver lining is not to deal with the Chicago traffic and and commute, right? I think commute is just not a productive time in my mind. That's a silver lining, not having to commute. The challenges is because the folks don't know me, right? I haven't met my own team in person, so I had to find a half-hour Zoom, and everything is a box, like how we are interacting. That is also a silver lining because now we are able to interact. But I think there is a value to body language and the hallway conversations and eye contact, and those things are very important. I'm looking forward to a day when, even if I'm a believer of working from anywhere, I don't believe that everybody has to go to office. However, I do believe in the in-person interactions, and I think that has a lot of value. The sidebar conversations or the break room conversations.
Yeah, in fact, it's very interesting you said that. Somebody, as I was talking to, and realized that I think we have become more efficient because commute time is not there and productive. But I think the creativity is getting lost a little bit. So innovation, new things, new ideas that two people can talk quickly, whiteboard. So they're really missing that innovative piece of that and human interaction. So everybody's, I think, looking for, hopefully we'll find a new medium where it's not going to be completely work from home or completely from office, but a decent, healthy level of interactions, but still maintain some of the efficiencies and the gains that we have had.
Yeah, I was going to mention the whiteboard. Even though we have tools to do that virtually, I think the power of being in front of a whiteboard and erasing it and writing it over is something that I miss.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be interesting how it changes because, Salesforce just announced that they canceled their leases here, at the large tower. And I know that a lot of people are saying that it will resume, but what is that going to look like? And so if there's going to be offsites, that would be interesting. If there's going to be sprints, where people come to the office for 1 week a month or 1 week a quarter or whatever it may look like, or 1 day a week, it's going to be interesting to see that unfold.
Absolutely.
I predict, this is my wishful thinking, we all work from home, but go out to mingle, like opposite of what we used to do.
That's very interesting. Actually, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, that's a very kind of European model, actually. Okay, so our last question comes in from Nikki, and she writes, can you please share a bit of your career trajectory and how you found yourself with the Y organization?
Absolutely. So I grew up in India. After my graduate, I came here as an intern at Blue Cross Blue Shield, actually, and I ended up at a CIO level in 20 years. That's a summary of it. But I also had good bosses who became my mentors, who actually gave me so much space to grow at every level. And I was tapped down to build solutions in the next gen technology, whether it is 20 years ago, moving away from mainframes to client server, or big data, AI, previously API first, all kinds of stuff. And that really helped me to grow. My MO at Blue Cross Blue Shield is I built a patented SaaS platform and scaled it up to a national level and a data warehouse that has 19 billion claim records. So that's something I did in the past. The reason I took the role at Y is because the impact I can have locally and the impact I can see in many ways, it aligned with my personal values because I'm involved in the nonprofit boards and the opportunity was compelling. I really said yes before COVID hit. And after COVID hit, even though there were a lot of challenges, I wanted to stick to my commitment and I took the role with the thought process that, 5 years from now, when I look back, would YMCA want a leader who stuck with them during tough times and helped them rebuild it? Or would they need a leader who took off at the first sign of trouble? And I tried to answer the question for myself and obviously considered it with my wife. And then I took the step forward and joined Y.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I know we are running out of time, but I want to quickly ask one thing that I didn't get a chance to ask before. Shiva, there are a lot of young people who listen to this as well. Is there any one piece of advice you want to give to any of those as they build their career?
Keep an open mind. I think it's very, very important in this ever-changing world, whether it is technology, processes, even money, relationships, social media, whatever it may be. I think what you see in the headlines, it looks like everybody is having an opinion. You're on one side of the spectrum and you're stuck with it. You can never listen to the other person. I tend to think that is just the headlines. I tend to think more people are open-minded or in the middle. So I would say it's a fast-changing world. Keep an open mind so you can learn and grow as the times change. That would be my one piece of advice.
Great, very good one. Thank you. Over to you, Bianca.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your questions. On behalf of WindWire, I want to extend my gratitude to both Shiva and Ashu for a wonderful session. Today's event will be available on our website for on-demand access by going to windwire.com. you want to stay on top of the latest news, technology solutions, and events, please follow us on our LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook pages for up-to-date information. Thanks again and see you next time.